Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's begin the daily quiz for today with question number 1 on your screen. Consider the following statements. Number 1. In the last decade, India's exports to the EU countries have grown at a faster pace than the country's overall exports. Second, under the India UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, 40% value addition or substantial processing of up to 40% in the exporting country is required to qualify for lower tariffs. Third, the US Mexico Canada agreement has a sunset clause in trade agreements, which provides for a periodic review, and agreement is slated to end automatically in 16 years until the country is renegotiated. Which of these given statements with regards to free trade agreements and other trade agreements is or are correct? The correct answer here is D. All the three statements are correct. Now, if you actually see, whenever the two nations sign a free trade or a preferential trade agreement, there is always a question of the country of origin. For example, let's say India says to the UAE that if a product comes from your country to India, we will put lower taxes. Now, the problem here is what stops China, that China will, let's say, send a product to UAE and the same product will then be sent to India under lower taxes, because that is not the aim or the objective of the free trade agreement. India UAE free trade agreement is to give encouragement to UAE industry and factory, not to the Chinese products. So there is always a point of country of origin in any of such agreements. That is, we will only give a preferential treatment or lower taxes if at least 40% of the product is made in your country. Apart from this, first and the third statements are also absolutely correct. The reason why we are discussing this question is because in the Indian Express editorial page today, we have a question specifically with regards to the rules of origin when it comes to signing the different free trade agreements. All the facts have been taken from this article. The article says that India has recently signed free trade agreements with UAE and Australia, and we just began similar talks with the EU as well very recently. And that is why this particular question has been asked. Next, question number 2. Consider the following statements with regards to climate change. Number 1. The next round of NDCs, that is nationally determined contributions, is due only in 2025. Second, only Egypt and New Zealand have responded to a call that countries should revisit their NDCs by the end of 2022 to strengthen them or to make them even bigger. Third, the member countries of the like-minded group include Belarus, Bhutan, China, and India. Which of these given statements is or are correct? Now, it's a difficult question to answer because again it has a lot of facts with respect to climate change initiatives. The correct answer here is 1 and 3. C is correct. The second statement is wrong because actually it is Egypt and Australia that are the two nations that have decided to even further strengthen their nationally determined contributions, while other nations have not done any of that. This is what this article says in the Indian Express. It talks about the climate change summit that will come up very, very shortly this year itself in the form of COP27. The author here talks about the nationally determined contributions, which is only good enough to limit the temperature rise to 2.4 degrees Celsius, while we are hoping to ensure that it does not cross the 2 degrees Celsius mark. It also says that nations such as the US, which are the big emitters, have still not taken up the responsibility for their historical emissions, and they instead want nations such as China and India to take greater responsibility and cut down on the emissions. Similarly, like-minded group of developing nations includes China, India, Saudi Arabia, and Arab countries, and the other ones that I mentioned in this question. Next, question number 3. Consider the following statements with regard to the bail rule in India. Number 1. The CRPC does not define the word bail but only categorizes offences under the Indian Penal Code as bailable and non-bailable. Second, non-bailable offences are cognizable, which enables the police officer to arrest without a warrant. Third, the CRPC empowers the magistrates to grant bail for bailable offences as a matter of right. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here would be D. All the three given statements here are correct. That is, There are two types of offenses, bailable and non-bailable. One misconception that people might have is that a non-bailable offense means that you will not be given the bail, which is not correct. Bailable offense means getting a bail is your right. Non-bailable offense means the magistrate will decide whether or not the bail has to be given to you. And that is how the difference between the two lies. The article in the Indian Express today is based on the Supreme Court's recent judgment, which said that there is a pressing need for reforms in the law related to the bail, especially, and said that the government must consider framing a special law on the lines of the United Kingdom itself. Now, UK in 1976 passed something called the Bail Act of United Kingdom, which prescribes a procedure for granting a bail. One of the key features of the law is to reduce the size of the inmate population, that is, the people who are in the jail. The law also has provisions for ensuring legal aid for the defendants. This UK Act recognizes the general right to be granted bail. In fact, it specifically says that for rejecting bail, the prosecution must show that there are grounds to believe that if the bail is given, then an offense would be committed by the person when he is out of the jail. Let's see if the government of India goes ahead with such kind of a law or not. Next, question number 4. NASA has described the Webb's first deep field image as the deepest and sharpest dash image of the distant universe to date. It shows a galaxy cluster called SMASC 723 and more. You have to fill in the blank. Is it infrared? It is ultraviolet? Is it X-ray or is it virtual? What kind of image are we talking about? This is infrared. Not a difficult question to answer because infrared technology is used in most of these telescopes which are actually trying to look at far away distant objects in the space. This is the article in the Indian Express today. This is written because Joe Biden recently, the US president, released the first of the full color images from the James Webb Space Telescope, and a lot of other images were released later on after that as well. This image, which is released by the US president, is known as the Webb's first deep field image. Thousands of galaxies have appeared in the view of the James Webb telescope. NASA has said that this slice of the vast universe is just like the size of a grain of a sand which is held at an arm's length by someone who is in the ground. That means there is so much more that still needs to be explored in the universe. Next, there is a previous year question from 2021. With reference to the Indus water system of the following 4 rivers, 3 of them pour into one of them, which joins the Indus direct. Amongst the following, which is one of the rivers that joins the Indus direct? It is saying that 3 of these rivers join the 4th river, and then the 4th river is the one that will be joining Indus. Which is that river? The correct answer here is D, Satluj. If you see this photograph, you will be able to understand all these rivers, that is Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi. If you can actually see, these are all joining Satluj river, and then Satluj is the one that is continuing to join Indus. That is why the correct answer here is Satluj. Next, we have a fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about the interesting trend that we are seeing in the euro currency. That is, euro has fallen to such a level that it is almost equal to $1 now. The article now explores what will be the impact of such a depreciation of euro on Indian rupee. Now, if you look at the history of euro, you would see that only once in the past, that is in 2002, there was a time that euro was almost the same as dollar. In fact, it went lower as compared to the dollar. But since then, there has been an economic recovery of the euro and eurozone, and we see that the value of euro has increased until recently. This weakening of the euro also shows that investors are pulling out money from the eurozone and then putting it in the US right now. Euro has been becoming weak against the dollar since a long time now. This trend actually has been seen since 2008 when it touched the peak value. Since then, there has been a decline which became even sharp after the energy crisis in Europe, which started after the Russia-Ukraine war. As you would know, the COVID-19 pandemic and the other slow fiscal response in the European continent have also weakened their economy comparatively. Europe is completely dependent on Russian oil and gas, and there has been a huge spike in the energy prices, which has also created a cost of living crisis for the people who are in Europe right now. Now, what does it mean for the Indian rupee? At the moment, the Indian rupee has appreciated considerably, meaning that Indians who are holidaying in Europe or spending money in Europe would find it cheaper to travel. However, in the long run, if the euro continues to stay weak, the trend below the parity, it will also take the rupee down with it as per the experts. If the euro continues to weaken, the rupee, which is already just a few paisa away from 80 rupees a dollar, will further weaken against the dollar because euro has a lot of trade linkages with India. So it might seem like a good thing to happen in the short run, but if the trend continues, it might be dangerous for the Indian currency as well. This is it for today's daily quiz video. Thank you so much for watching.